All right, hello and welcome, folks. Hold on while I get some things going here. This is not a Q&A, dashboard showcase and makeover. I hope you're here for that. That's what I'm here for. Woo, excited. And of course, our mantra is do good work, tell great stories, if I can spell that. Okay, first of all, let us know where you're joining us from. I love saying hello. And I do want to show you my face. That's me. And oh, the audio. Okay, Matthias, yeah, let me know. Gosh, this is as close as I can put my mic to to myself. I'm not sure what's going on. The audio levels look good in my microphone. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Everybody else, let me know. Matthias, good to have you on, though. Robert, maybe you can do a check on YouTube as well. See if my audio sounds great. Stan is here from Alabama. Hello, Stan. Kendall from Americas, Georgia. Scott Wright from Seattle, Washington. And yeah, guys, and definitely let me know if my audio level is like you can hear me.
Your audio's good, Gary from London.
All right. Hey, Carrie, how you doing?
I'm
And
doing
we
good.
have, all right, great to hear. We have Ankita from India, Alan from London, Mark from Portland, fellow Northwesterner. Josh from Austin, Texas. Levi is here from Arizona. Awesome. Jen Abel is here. His audio is okay. Thank you, Jen. Shashank is here from Bangalore, India. And Shashank, thank you for submitting your dashboard as well. Basa is saying I sound good. Uh, okay. Alan is here. Sound audio good. All right, great. Gear, hello from Holland. Roshan from Toronto. Manoj from India. Heather from Charleston, South Carolina. And Selma from France. Okay, more hellos coming. Hey, what can I say, folks? I am so glad and happy to have everybody here. And that's what I love about us, right? It's not about me. It's not about one person. It's about us. It's about the community. And if you realize community is a big element in anything that I do, right? I mean, YouTube, our Learn Power BI program, and of course our Power BI consultant program, and soon to be coming the Pioneer program. So let's talk about Dashboard Showcase, and then I did want to have a shout out for our Pioneer and consultant programs. So why are we here? We are here, my friends, because in this day and age, you can't hope to succeed by just doing good work. The reality is that you gotta do good work, but you gotta tell great stories. That is the truth. This platform has solely been created for our students in the Learn Power BI family and for our YouTube followers to give them a platform, a safe space where they can get started on this journey, right? Journey of amazing success. Success awaits you, my friends, right? But you know, what are you going to do to get there? Because what got you here won't get you there. So that's the premise behind this. It's a safe space. Nobody's going to judge you. We're going to, so I was in Toastmasters, and sometimes we would have like newcomers or guests at Toastmasters. That's a public speaking kind of a forum, by the way, for those who are not aware. And they would always say, man, everybody claps at Toastmasters. And I hope we can embody the same spirit here. Everybody's going to clap. And we might give you some feedback and areas of improvement, but we're always going to cheer you on because, frankly, we're not necessarily cheering you on. We're not just cheering on the dashboard you're presenting, but we're cheering on the spirit that you bring. Because everybody knows. So, again, I mean, if we know that this is the key to success, do good work and tell great stories, why don't we all do it? Because there's a price to pay for success and the steps you need to take to get to success. And that price is too high for most people. That price is your fear and self-doubt. Are you willing to pay in that currency? Awesome. So, okay, that was a long intro. Oh boy. So we have some amazing folks who have submitted their dashboards. So we're gonna kick it off there, and but I do want to shout out that the enrollment to our Power BI consulting program is opening soon. It's actually opening on Thursday, January 21, and we're running an awesome webinar and an awesome event. And guys, this is not just a webinar. This is the first time I'm doing things this way. This actually is it actually has its own event community. Thank you for everybody who's joined the community. And we're running a lot of, we're having the group take a lot of micro action before the event. And we're also going to be doing some casual hangouts with them next week. The idea here is that, so this is going to be a totally free experience. And the idea there is, so here's the truth, folks. Relatively, very few people join my programs, at least at this level, right? So last time, I think there were like 500 people who registered for the webinar, but our group is a small group, right? So Power BI consultants. But I want to serve more people. So I want anybody who joins this experience to have an epic time and move towards their goals. Take concrete, solid steps towards their goals, come a little bit farther. So yeah, all you have to do is go to learnpowerbi.com and and you can click on that button and you can sign up for our event and the whole experience, right? And again, the premise is simple. This is for somebody who wants to be a Power BI consultant, but maybe you're not sure if it's the right path for you. Maybe you're not sure what crucial steps you should focus on or even where to start, right? And again, my goal is through this free experience to move you forward on this. I want you to be able to figure out if it's the right path for you, what are the steps you need to take, where do you need to start. That's it. That's a promise. So if you're interested in that path, just go to learnpowerbi.com, sign up for that, and of course, Learn Power BI, it's always there, but there is the Pro Pioneer program. Now that is for somebody who's like, no, Avi, I love my job. I don't want to leave it. I don't want to become a Power BI consultant. That path isn't for me. I want to serve people around me, right? So I want to step into a leadership role, what I call the Power BI leaders or Power BI pioneers. So that's opening. That's coming up later, March 2021. Okay, cool. So thank you, folks. And again, thank you so much for everybody who has already signed up, who is part of the community, who's been following us, taking micro action. More exciting stuff coming next week. We're going to do casual hangouts, all that stuff. So I'm super excited about that. Okay, so let's get started here with the dashboard showcase and makeover. And I should have had my file all ready to go, but I don't. So let me cue it up. And by the way, thanks to Robert for being the DJ, as we call him, right? So he's going to kind of orchestrate the show. He's going to check in. So make sure to check in with Robert on the chat. If you did submit your entry through the link here, and he's gonna help me kind of cue things up here. So dashboard makeover. So Robert, is it a good idea still to go ahead with Flavio?
I haven't seen Flavio yet. I was hoping he would be here, but I can see Shashank. I hope I pronounced that well. Shashank.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Let me look at Shashank's dashboard. Okay, let's go with Shashank's dashboard. VG Gaming sales, great. So let's go over here, and this is the one we're covering right now. Is all right, folks. So first of all, again, we're gonna be like Toastmasters. We're always gonna clap. So, and so Shashank's kudos for stepping up, submitting this. And yeah, I hope this is a start off an amazing journey, right? I hope you tell your story and then you tell your story again and again and get good at it. So, by the way, I'm a huge fan of TED Talk, and I was just listening to one recently, and it had such a beautiful line. And it said, "Don't wait for the perfect story. Tell your story and make it perfect." Oh, God, such beautiful words. Oh, man, that's poetry. So, yeah, don't wait for your perfect story, my friends. I mean, imagine if I had done that. Right? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to wait to be perfect before I start teaching Power BI. And it just, that's not a good idea. Okay, I'm trying to do something here. Trying to turn out the chimes. Hey, Thomas, good to have you on, mate. Ivan is here too. Gray, I think I said hi to one of you. Okay. So let's do the squint test. Let's start there. So I'm going to kind of half close my eyes and do the squint test and see what do I notice first. And this one is kind of close. I think I noticed this graph first. And this thing is so colorful, I kind of noticed that too a little bit. So of course, guys, there's no right or wrong in a way for dashboard. I mean, I give you guidelines inside my course, and there are videos on my channel as well. But they're guidelines. And same way I give you guidelines around modeling and relationships and DAX. And you don't have to follow them, but if you're not following them, I hope it's for a reason, right? It's not just like by accident, modeling by accident, dashboard by accident, life by accident, right? So it's, let's create things by design, shall we? Right? Modeling by design, dashboard by design. It's intentional. So again, the squint test is not like, oh, squint, you failed the squint test. No, squint test. There's no such thing. Squint test, you just align it. Was that my intent, right? So Shashank, I mean, only you can answer that. Was that your intent to have this be the highlight? And if it was, then, well, great. If not, then, well, you maybe have a little bit of work to do, right? So, of course, let's just talk about why. So, again, we've talked about the layout. Think of it like real estate. Not every pixel is the same value. And the value generally decreases in this order because we read and scan in this order. Now, what that means is that usually this is prime real estate. Interestingly, center can also be important, but that's a little tricky. But top left is the prime real estate. This one is the least valuable. All right, so in here, and of course, so this is kind of in a pretty important real estate. So again, we start scanning at the top. So the position makes this element important in a squint test. That's why it's showing up, and of course, it's big. It's a large element, probably the largest in the set. So again, that's why it's catching our attention in the squint test. And again, Shashank can decide whether that's good or not. Oh, Shashank is saying yes. I want that to be focused. Oh wait, oh no, I think he's answering something else. All right, cool. So sales by year. That's it. Now, of course, this one is highly debatable. Well, actually, not for me, not for Stephen Few. By the way, most of my learning about dashboard design comes from what I would say is the godfather of dashboard design, Stephen Few. Or maybe that's Edward Tufte, whom Stephen Few learned from. But I find Stephen Few's stuff a lot more relatable, understandable. Edward Tufte, I've tried to read him. He's good, but it felt a little more theoretical. So Stephen Few is my man. So I generally, since this is prime real estate, I try to avoid placing any of this. And again, you want your data to be the hero. And that's not data. It probably has a place, but I try to place it here, or if I can manage, the least valuable, right, the bottom corner. If I can manage, then I put it there, throw it there, because it's not data. It's not gonna change. All right, cool. So that was the squint test. Now let's look at the anatomy of the dashboard, right? Let's break it down. What are the elements? And those who are in my program have seen my power pattern, and it's so simple, but it works great, right? And sometimes, people are looking they think complex is valuable. In fact, I've had people join my course and ask for a refund saying, hey, Avi, this is all too simple. and that's okay. I respect that. We, of course, have this crazy 1-year refund policy. So we're good. We're like, yep, no worries. But the challenge is that, again, we have this conception that it has to be complex for it to be valuable. So it has to, okay, yeah, here are the 100 steps you need to do, or, oh, here's something really hard that you need to do. And I don't believe that. I think a lot of this stuff is simple. Now, of course, there's a distinction between it may be simple and straightforward, but it may not be easy. For example, again, we talked about like the price of success is your fear and self-doubt. That's pretty straightforward, but it's not easy, right? So, of course, in our group, we always talk about this imposter syndrome or hashtag not good enoughness, right? That feeling was, oh, am I good enough? Or do I know enough tax, right? So it's simple. So Power Pattern is also really, really simple and so powerful, which is simple. You start with the high-level numbers. You have breakdowns and trends, and then a little bit of detail. And actually, I'll try to pull up my stock sample for that if we can. Hold on. Okay, once that comes up, I'll show you what we have inside our class, right? So if we look at it that way, man, it has, so again, this has good bones. This has good anatomy. It has high-level elements at the top. It's got breakdowns. So this is a breakdown, this is a breakdown, this is a breakdown, and it's got trends, right? So there's a trend here. And it doesn't have detail, but that's okay. I mean, you don't have to have it. Detail is kind of optional. And frankly, the biggest offense that they commit is they put too much detail. And I know I come from an Excel background, so initially my Power BI dashboards look like a bunch of tables. Well, yeah, yeah, it looked like I'd taken Excel and just kind of, yeah. So, by the way, one of the most fruitless endeavors in Power BI when you're starting off with Power BI is to try to recreate an Excel report. I won't get too much into that, but yeah, watch out for that. You don't want to necessarily start there. Sometimes it helps to start with a blank slate. Okay, so it has good bones. So yeah, and again, awesome, Shashank, great job. So let's see where we can perhaps improve it. So let's see, where do we start? So again, let's go back to the basics, which is data is the star of the show. We want the data to shine. So that means we divide what we're seeing into data pixels and non-data pixels. And then we're going to take the non-data pixels and then we're going to either eliminate or minimize them, right? So again, sometimes, I mean, I don't know, I hope this doesn't sound harsh. I'm just putting on my Stephen Few hat and just doing non-data data. I'm not even going to kind of judge at this time, right? So what is non-data pixel? Well, this boundary is not data. Frankly, this background, this whole color is not data. The color here is not data. These grid lines are not data. Yeah, maybe these icons and slicers, they're not data. Yeah, so we kind of see elements like that. And so yeah, so I would say try to minimize that. So now, of course, there's this two school of thought. One is the white dashboard, and then there is, of course, the dark theme. Now, I'll admit that I haven't created a dark theme dashboard ever. Those can be really good and really spot on as far as design principles are concerned. But it just takes a little more skill to do the dark one. So yeah, I've never been brave enough, right? And actually, you can have like a white background in the back. So I'm talking about the background color, or slightly off-white. In fact, Stephen Few says that off-white can actually be better. I've been too chicken to try off-white either. So white or off-white, or of course, if you're going with a dark theme, then kind of black, right? But so even if we ignore the background, we say, you know what, maybe Shashank is going for a dark theme background, so that's good. But I would say, think about these, the boundaries. Does this need a color? So this color is kind of filled in right now in these squares and so forth. Does it need a color? And again, just experiment, right? There's no right or wrong. Just experiment. Just take away the boundary lines and take away the fill color and just see how it looks. So I have gotten feedback from people who said, yeah, we did it, man. It looked better. It just looked better, right? So of course it looks better, and then your data becomes a star. Your data, you give your data a chance to shine. So I'll try some of those things, right? I mean, do we really need a fill color? Do we really need a boundary? And again, you remove it, and if it doesn't work, we'll bring it back on, but minimize it, right? So minimize it. So again, if you think about, you're paying for every pixel. So do you really want to pay to color each pixel here this slight different shade? Do you really want to pay that money? So instead of paying all of that money, maybe you don't need to fill the whole thing. Maybe just do a boundary. And maybe instead of this boundary, try a really light boundary, right? And of course, what is light? Well, light is something which is just a little bit off from the background, right? So of course, when I'm doing it in a white background, if I'm going to do a boundary, it's going to be like light gray, so I was trying to show, right? So imagine I would actually do a boundary like this, just a light color. So just, maybe, so if it is a dark background, as in this case, what you would do is just take a little bit of a lighter shade of that, just a little bit, right? And see if that works. So again, the goal is we're either eliminating or minimizing non-data pixels. Cool, of course. So so that's great. And of course, slicers are kind of one of those things, yeah, they're needed, but I do try to minimize them. Now, you may, now this is, somebody can say, oh, that's wasteful, but you may say, you know what, I need that. I need that to be a visual slicer, and that's okay too. But what I generally do is that, again, since this part is more valuable, so this one is, so let's see. So generally the top is more valuable, generally the left is more valuable, and this is the least valuable real estate, right? Because again, we scan in this way. We scan from left to right and top to bottom. I always have to be careful how I say that. So what I generally do is that I take my slicers and I keep them in a less important real estate position, because again, they're not data. So I want them to be on screen. Generally, I like slicers. I like putting it on there, but I would just move them here. So that's the best thing I can think of. Now, of course, folks. So if you realize we're just looking at it from a cosmetic lens, then there's a whole other lens which we often can't dive into, which is, well, what was the goal of the dashboard? What were you trying to do? What's your aim? Right? And it did its work, and kind of the whole peel down. We can't quite get in there. Sometimes if we have students on the phone, we can get into that a little bit. But of course, that's a journey too. So don't kind of ignore that either. But let's see if we can look at some of this stuff. So if you realize right now, this could have been a sales dashboard, this could have been an HR dashboard. I didn't care so far, right? But I'm just gonna pause a second and look at it from a sales perspective and see. So total sales, I'm kind of loving it. Yep, totals. I love having the total numbers there, big bold numbers, and North. So you're splitting by geography: North America, Japan, Europe, others. Good. And you're saying trend. Yeah, sales by region. Yeah, so pie chart, donut charts are generally slightly frowned upon. Well, actually, Stephen Few says no. and again, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. But well, maybe there's a little bit of good and bad. But you need to understand why is that way. So generally, if you look at dashboard, it's like real estate. We've talked about that, right? So every pixel is valuable. So what are the kind of visualizations that we are aiming for? Well, we want so think about it. If the real estate here is valuable, and think of yourself as a real estate developer, what you want are visualizations which take up less space and give you high value, right? Oh man, you know what? I just thought of that. Basically skyscrapers. We want skyscrapers, right? The footprint is small, but it can accommodate a lot of people. That's what we want. So what are the skyscrapers in visualizations? These are visuals which don't take up that much space, but communicate very effectively. Makes sense, right? The pie chart is the opposite. It takes a lot of space, and it doesn't communicate as effectively. It's not very precise. And frankly, the dead giveaway is that when you feel like you need the labels on there. Notice, right? I mean, man, boom, I think this is like a mic drop moments between pie charts and bar charts, right? So, well, or maybe I'll let you be the judge. But think about it, right? I mean, Shashank didn't feel compelled to put labels on any other graph, but pie chart he did, because somehow we intuitively realize that pie charts are shitty, right? It's hard, and it's with human biology. It's right. I mean, it's the way our brain has evolved, and I don't know why it has evolved that way, but we are very, very good at detecting these differences. You notice how small this difference is? Actually, human beings apparently can detect a difference as small as 2 pixels. If one bar was larger than the other by 2 pixels, we would notice it. We would know. We would just say, yeah, that's taller, right? Pie chart, opposite story. So pie chart, either you have to judge the angle or the area, and the donut chart, it's what I don't know what it is, right? I mean, it's just like, I don't know. So either the angle or the area, and we are really bad at that. Human beings are bad at that, but there's something that makes it much worse, which is we're bad at it, but we don't think we don't realize how bad we are. So we think, so if you show somebody a pie chart and you say, well, how big do you think this slice is? And they'll say this number. And I will say, how confident are you? They'll say, 9 out of 10, right? So that's a double whammy. So again, right? So we dove in a little bit, but so again, I'm not saying don't use pie charts, donut charts, but just be aware. So again, the goal is dashboard by design, modeling by design, life by design. All right. Okay, cool. All right, Shashank. So hopefully that helped. Robert, who would be a good one to go next?
So we have Tabitha. She presented and she's watching on YouTube.
Awesome. Great, Tabitha. Thank you so much. So she has a service desk reporting dashboard. Great. Okay, and I realized that the the text covers part of the screen. We'll see. All right, on to dashboard number 2, Tabitha. This is a service desk dashboard. Let me see. It has a few different pages. Let's see, this one. Great. And let me see if she added something in the note. Tabitha built this from service desk ticketing system. It's the first report I've built in several years. Congratulations, kudos. We have 3 distinct business groups that use the system: HR, IT, and business support. I was asked to build a dashboard to capture very basic metrics for who's reporting and what category the questions fall into. Yeah, and she's saying, I appreciate any insights the community has on filtering and security. That's great. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is some good stuff. So first of all, again, kudos to Tabitha for not only creating this dashboard, kind of stepping up, helping the teams around her, but sending this in, right? Sharing her story. So of course, folks, we were talking about the not good enoughness syndrome, and we all struggle with it. Trust me, I do too. And it doesn't take long to trigger it. Frankly, anytime I stumble onto the SQLBI.com site and I fail to understand half of it, it kicks in. I'm like, oh God, how dare I call myself the PowerBIPro? I don't know half of this stuff. And but that's okay. So of course, that's a game you cannot win. I think in one of my videos I talked about the learning paradox, and the learning paradox is that the more you learn, the less you know, because your horizons keep expanding. So there's no way out of that. There's no way you can win that game. What's the way forward if you can't win the game? Well, you got to change the game. And you change the game by, instead of focusing on yourself and making it all about me, am I good enough? You just focus on others. And that's what Tabitha did. She said, hey, I got HR, IT, business support. Can I help them in some way? We have this data. We've been sitting on it. maybe doing some stuff with it in Excel. But we all know how that goes. Is there a better way to do it? Is there a 21st century way of doing it? Excel is a great tool. Excel has been heralded as the best tool of the 20th century. Think about it. The best software of the 20th century. You know what? I would vote for that. That's the best thing that came out of 20th century as a software. Yeah, sure, I'll go for that. But we're not in 20th century anymore. All right, great. And of course, I'm talking about the old Excel. The modern Excel has Power BI built in. So great. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip over the map, and I'm going to go to this page. I'm going to start here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages here, and we're going to start here. I'm not sure. Because again, if you think about the dashboard power pattern, you start with high-level numbers. I think that grounds us. Right, so say, oh, okay, right? And of course, by the way, this was another thing with Shashank, which again, you may or may not need it, put it in every single dashboard, but usually some kind of an indication to say that, these are the big numbers, but are they good or bad? Right? 16 million sales, is that good? Are we doing good or not? Are we doing terrible? Right? So if you can just add some indication. So of course, in this case, I'm doing year-over-year percentage change. Now, of course, if I was working a little bit harder on this dashboard, maybe I would add some color somewhere. And again, a little bit goes a long way. You don't have to color it flashing red. Maybe just change the font to, kind of a red, right? Oh, well, actually, in this case, green. And things are good, right? So so if you can give big, bold numbers, if you can give an indication of whether that number is good or bad, right? With some comparison, that can be valuable. So we always start there, and again, because we're guiding the human who's kind of going through that, and so this kind of grounds them, and then they're ready for the next stuff. And they say, okay, cool, I see 16 million sales, were great. Well, where did that come from? I was like, oh yeah, da. And again, this is the detail, and you choose what detail you want to see. You choose the journey. It's kind of giving them a guided tour of a museum without actually guiding them. You're guiding them visually. You're not actually there. Think more like, where do you set up the velvet rope to guide them so that they go from this exhibit to that one, right? And they don't miss any key details. They don't miss the most important one or something. All right. So high level numbers. So this is great. This is awesome. High level numbers breakdown right there. Bam, kind of nailed it, right? So great start there. Now, so again, right, guys, dashboard by design or by accident. So think about this, right? She starts off with urgent tickets, and initially I was like, shouldn't we start with total? But no, I think this is right. I don't know. And again, right, you can choose what is more relevant, that we have 27,000 tickets, or that we have 18 urgent open tickets. Yeah, so I think that's more important. That's what I would want to focus on. So I think this is brilliant, right? She's obviously been around service tickets. I don't know if she actually works in like the ticketing team, support team, or she's coming in from like a business analyst perspective, right? But she clearly knows the domain. She's worked with them. So urgent open tickets, I love it. Oh gosh, I'm really loving it, right? And then it says, oh well, and then it gives us some context, right? So I can see that, yep, out of 138, we have 18 urgent tickets. That's great. And then it also says, oh, and by the way, these many are overdue. I feel like, this is interesting. So sometimes we do this. So one of my managers, he would set priority. So he would give us a whole bunch of tasks, right? And I'll say, hey, this is great. I see all of this stuff needs to be done, but what is more important? Like, what is a priority on these? And it's, oh, it all needs to be done yesterday. It's all P1 or P0. It's like, what? And if you think about it, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority, right? So in here, when I'm doing these big numbers, so of course I've kind of done the same thing. And again, right? I mean, you can judge me if you want, right? So notice everything is the same font, same size, the same gap. By the way, space. What is the most valuable element in dashboard design? It's space. It's empty space, right? So I use the same amount of empty space between this pretty much. And what else? The only thing that's differentiating them is the order, right? So this appears first, then this, then this, then this. And we've been talking about the order in here. But there are other elements you can use in dashboard design, right? The way you cluster elements, the way you space them, right? So I feel, my gut feel is that I feel like this thing belongs in a cluster and this belongs in a cluster, right? I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't it feel like apples and oranges, right? I mean, this stuff is like, and I feel like this is the linchpin. I feel like it's open tickets that grounds me. It's like, yeah, we have 138 open tickets. Out of those, 21 are overdue, 18 are urgent, right? So I feel like, so this needs to be clustered. So how do we cluster it? Again, space is the most powerful element. What we can do is just introduce a little bit of space between here, right? So make it like, one box of this, and then just move this box, the other one, slightly to the side. And again, you can just do a little bit of space and you will see everything changes. Now, of course, what you can do is you can also try it without these lines. You don't really need those lines. So yeah, and again, I mean, you can decide, right? So I just use a light shading because I did. Again, I experimented, right? I took this background off, and I realized that the numbers weren't popping as I wanted them to pop. So, and of course, I tried it with a boundary, light boundary. It still didn't work. So I'm saying, you know what? I'm just going to do a light background. So yeah, so you can kind of try it, right? So just experiment with that. And again, I feel like the way, so again, you're giving them a guided tour, and I feel like the way I want them to walk through is I want them to get this first, which grounds them, and then I say, oh, out of these, there are 21 open, urgent open, this, right? So something like, okay, cool. And then this becomes a separate kind of thing. So, oh, and by the way, total tickets are this, closed tickets are this. And I'm assuming that this is in a specific time frame. This is year to date or something. What are they looking at? Like, obviously, I mean, this can't be lifetime because that is kind of a meaningless number, right? I mean, yeah. So this should be for current year, year to date, last 12 months, whatever. I mean, however you want to look at things, right? Last month, last 3 months, rolling months. Pick a time frame that, yeah, this is how we generally look at things, right? And again, you don't have to invent it. Just think about how do you generally operate, right? I mean, right, and ask people if you need to, like, hey, how would you, right? So ask people how do they like to look at things right now? Rolling 3 months, rolling 12 months, current year, year to date, whatever it is. So yeah, this can't be lifetime number because that, yeah, doesn't make sense. So we have the high level numbers and we have the breakdown by priority, by source. Good breakdowns. Of course, the caveat that I said about pie chart still applies. And just experiment. So again, column chart, bar charts, those can be far more effective. Just see how it looks. If that looks good, so again, that should be a default, right? So the default should be the best practices. It's okay to stray and use a pie chart or a donut chart with a picture of dog in the middle, right? But yeah, just by design, not by accident. So, yep, I choose to do this because blah. And sometimes I would admit, for me, was, yeah, because the client asked for a pie chart, they insisted. Yeah, but either way, column chart, bar chart, so you have the breakdown. So that is great. And then you have some of the other, let's look at this one. So this is a breakdown as well, tickets by agent Q. So of course, stack charts, each chart has its kind of strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes, like for example, pie chart, of course, if you've seen pie chart with like a lot of elements, everybody knows, anybody can look at that and say, you know what, that's not really working. And stack chart have a similar problem with if there are too many elements, it becomes a little tricky. Now, one way to tackle that is to show like the top 5, right? And then cluster the other stuff in other. I hope that makes sense. And frankly, even if you're not doing a stack chart, even if you're doing something like, let's try this. Let's change it to a column chart. Just a column chart. And what I'm going to do is add maybe products in there. So I'm going to go in here, and instead of country region, I want to see something which is very detailed. Let's try model name. Let's see. Yeah. So you would often find what is called a long tail pattern, right? So think about like Google search, right, or YouTube search. Most of the top videos would get a lot of clicks, and then it's just like a really, really long tail, right? So think about how wealth is distributed. I was just watching something, and it said 26 people in the world, 26, right? 26 people in the world have as much wealth as the bottom half of the world population. That's insane. That's a really long tail. Ouch. So you have a long tail pattern, but of course you see man, this is useless. Right? This stuff is just is no value. It's not communicating much. All it's saying is, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and right, yeah. So and yeah, you can hover on it and so forth, but it's not worth it. And of course, usually your space is compact, so it kind of scrolls. Scrolling is generally to be avoided, right? So yeah, it's because you want the idea of a dashboard is to present information on a screen. It's like it's there. So scrolling, you want to avoid that. So one way to do that is to show like the top 5, and then or top 10, whatever you want, right? Top 10, and then group everything in other. Now this is where folks. So visualization rides on the model. If you designed a beautiful model, visualization should be easy. Should be like, walking through the grocery store with your shopping cart and saying, oh, I want this, I want some juice, I want some eggs, right? That's what it should feel like, right? You're walking through and, you have all your formulas and all that stuff from the model, all the relationships, and you say, oh, I want sales, I want units, I want this, I want that, right? So that's how it should feel like. Visualization should be easy. So there's a dance between that. So of course, when you do the other one, the key thing is that I want the other graph to show at the end. And sometimes the long tail is very long. So all of these other things can add up to be somewhat bigger than, maybe the 10th element. But I still don't want other to kind of sneak in and be at number 7. And that, that's a fun exercise, by the way, in modeling. How do you make sure that it's at the end? All right, great. So here you can kind of consider that. Maybe you group some things, category. All right, cool. So again, a little bit of detail, and of course, one thing that I would encourage you to experiment, take a volume by Q. This is great. Is that see if you can pack more onto a single page. So by the way, when I say dashboard, so of course the name of this thing is Dashboard Showcase and Makeover, right? That's what it's called. That's what we call it, Dashboard Showcase and Makeover. And people email me saying, Avi, I don't have a dashboard. I have a Power BI report, and can I still show that? And of course, I hope you realize, man, it's the well, actually, Microsoft has taken the term dashboard and just changed it. What they call dashboard, the industry doesn't call that dashboard. The report is what everybody else calls dashboard. So that is a bit unfortunate. I wish they hadn't done that, but it's okay. Right. So I think Stephen Few has his definition, but I know it's about putting information on a single screen, And then he really goes into detail of why that single screen is important. And again, we kind of have these report pages, Power BI report pages, and that's okay. I'm not saying you should only have one report page, but to just go into a little bit, what he's saying is that the idea for dashboards is to help humans for the most part, right? Well, actually, yeah, for humans. I mean, machines don't need dashboards. They can do their AI magic, right? I mean, robots don't need to necessarily look at dashboards to get an insight, right? But we do. And if you go from one screen to the next, we can actually only carry about seven to nine pieces of information in our head. Now, what that information is depends on the graphic. Like if we see a trend, that is 1 unit of information, a number is one, and so forth. So short version of that, we're not very efficient. So what's going to happen is that humans are going to have a much harder time drawing insight, making connections, and so forth if you split information on multiple pages. So yeah, the best you can, you think about a page as like, what is the purpose? What do I want them to see? What story do I want them to hear? What insights do I want them to be able to glean? And then you design that page with a lot of love for that purpose, to help the human in that way. And then the next page, you start over. Like, what is the purpose of this page? It's not just a continuation of page one. It's not like, oh, here's the stuff that I couldn't fit on page one, so it's on page two, right? I mean, that's not designing dashboards. That's not creating dashboards by design. That is just by accident, right? So you do want to kind of put it on a single screen if you can. So I would encourage you to try to do that. So you have space, and again, put that in there. Stack chart, and this you can see. We intuitively know when something works versus what doesn't, right? I mean, anybody who's looking at this would go, well, what is that? And what is all this stuff? And a lot of this is like dots anyway. So yeah, there's something slightly off about this. Versus if you compare it with this, it's spot on, right? Now, of course, the fun part is understanding what these different options, what are their strengths, when to use which one. Like the stacked bar chart, what does it really do and what does it not do? What is the difference between column and bar chart? When should I use which, right? Or should I use a clustered one, stacked one? So we're not going to go into that, but of course, folks who are in the Learn Power BI program, we cover all of that inside a course. All right, let's look at the last one. So maps, I'll admit I have this one is challenging. Maps are always challenging. I feel maps are one of the most abused visuals. People use maps when they're not needed. Like, so of course, in here, like this United States of Australia, and I would see this kind of stuff in a map. And I was like, well, what's the value of that, right? I mean, yeah, just... what are you trying to convey? What insight are you, Yeah, you see these big dots on the map of the world when it comes up. Oh, there we go. Oh, and even worse are maps with the pie chart breakdown or something. And yeah, so that's the maps. I'm always a little bit wary. I think in this one, this works. I think this is really kind of specific. Mercy Housing, yeah, you want them to be able to slice and dice, to be able to drill down to a specific property. So yeah, so boy, thumbs up. This is I'm relieved. I'm glad. So really, map guys, kind of consider it. And sometimes people use it for bling. It's like, oh, it looks cool, but I don't know. I'm not in the business of cool per se. I want a more functional dashboard, right? Again, I want to help the humans. So great, Tabitha. Again, kudos on doing this for your team, and hopefully maybe others have some insight as well. Tabitha is saying the detail of the data on the tickets by category look too sloppy to put on one page. Cool, awesome. And folks, if you so Tabitha, the last dashboard showcase that we did, and by the way, folks, if you go on my channel and just click on the videos link at the top, you can access all of our recording. So just kind of click on videos. Also on the homepage, so if you look at the last dashboard showcase, we had Nicholas Nemeth, who's by the way in our Power BI consultant program, and he's amazing, and he has been around call center and service desk for a long, long time, and he had a mind-blowing presentation. Ooh, I'm actually tempted to, I think, pull some of it here. Let's see. Oh God, was it good? Yeah. Oh man, it just it was insane. It was really insane. The thought behind it, yeah. So if you wanna dive deeper, definitely support tickets, that sort of stuff. And of course, there was so much stuff in there which would apply to anybody. Like a lot of this stuff was based on surveys, and pretty much every business does surveys of some kind. I know we do. So that would help you. All right, great. Awesome. So Robert, let's who would be the next one
So,
to go to?
okay. So based on a fast come fast serve basis, we have Danie Flemming from South Africa with a stock level dashboard.
Yes, Danie, I got you on, mate. Danie Flemming, Stocklevels dashboard. Great. Oh, great. Yeah, hey, you've been highlighting stuff for me. Thank you. So let's get on here. Awesome. Hey, Robert, so I know sometimes these calls go long. Don't but usually, kind of after 10, it's only the the real fans who stick around. So I can usually handle that. So if you need to drop off after the hour, at the top of the hour, then do so. All right. Don't feel like you need to stay on till the till the end. Okay.
Cool, cool. I'm
Okay.
enjoying every bit of it.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. All right. Guys, by the way, like a round of applause for Robert. I'm telling you, it makes it so much easier. I don't know. You noticed. I know. I notice it. I'm more relaxed than I ever have being on this call. Otherwise, yeah. So, thanks, Robert. Okay, let's see. All right. So, Danie, he's saying this is what my managers use or supposed to use to get insights into over, under, around current stock levels. So I think a stock. I think he's talking about not like stock market, but I think like the warehouse stock levels. Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's what it is. Let's see. Oh. All right, Danie Flemming, stock level dashboard. Oh yeah, so I was right. So this is kind of on a warehouse. I'm thinking warehouse. By the way, shout out to our amazing Raul Jimenez. So folks, you probably so Danie, sorry, a little bit of a segue, but I always believe that your net worth is determined by your network. And I'm going to say one more, which is this day and age, it's not about what you know, but who you know. People are important, I think, right? So, and that's what you see in our programs, man. It's all about people. So, with our Power BI consultant group, one thing we've been working on is I don't want anybody to be a Power BI consultant. I think that's a recipe for disaster. If you're not convinced, at least hear me out. Here on my case, that was, I think, my last video. So again, if you go on my channel and click on videos, then yeah, there's this right here with me with a scared face, like, why no one should be a Power BI consultant. But I give you a solution as well. You shouldn't be a Power BI consultant. You should be what Raul is. That he is. He doesn't go out there and says, "Oh, I do Power BI." Oh gosh, yeah, that makes me cringe. yeah, he goes out there and says, hey, well, yeah, I help senior management, warehousing, and manufacturing leverage their existing data, all of that stuff. And he just happens to do that using the amazing tool of Power BI, right? So have that be your focus. So he's the most awesome warehouse person I know. Might be a good connection. And again, your net worth is your network. All right, great. So first of all, kudos to Danie for creating this for his team and for submitting this here. Thank you so much. And guys, the first objection that I get from people is that, oh, Avi, but my data is sensitive. And really, there's that one word in that sentence which I think differentiates winners from losers. I don't want to sound that harsh, but I can think of anything, right? But folks whom I see who move forward and grab success by the horns, whatever, something, right? It's that word. The word is but, right? So a lot of times people are like, I mean, yeah, I get it. I know I need to tell stories, but my data is sensitive. I can't do it, right? And all you need to do is to change that word, throw away that but for sure, and change that to and. And I don't know how you're going to complete that sentence, but you're going to find a way, right? So, and that's what it's about. It's like, I realize your situation is unique, but has there anybody in your industry who has ever shared their data, written a blog about it, and written a book maybe, spoken at a conference? Well, if they have, you can find a way too, right? So you say, yeah, this is valuable. I want to do this, and I'm going to do it this way because that works for me. So, of course, the simplest way that we say is that, oh, you take a screenshot and blur them, and we give you a whole video on how to do that really simply using some, easy to use tools. So, yep. So, kudos to Danie for just getting out there, start telling a story. Awesome. So, let's start with the squint test. And what's the thing that kind of jumps out most? I would say it is this graph. So oddly, this is not about the size. There are other elements which is the same size. It's not about the location because the most important location is up here. I think it's the color. So red, of course. So I don't think it's genetic. Like some things are genetic, right? I mean, it's due to our genetics, right? Due to our makeup as humans, our evolution, we are not equipped to read pie charts. That's just true, and true generally for everybody, right? I mean, again, some may be better than others. I don't know. They have genes which can read angles better or something, but generally, right? But red, this color association, I think this is a trained association. So red, I don't know, maybe traffic light is to blame, right? We all say red means stop. And of course, I think we also use it as a danger sign, like a red flag, danger, right? So red is danger. So I think it's a trained thing, but I think it's generally universal. Like pretty much everybody in the world, red has a strong meaning. So again, it's like by design or accident, you choose that. So I hope when you're using red, you're using it by design. And this one, it might be the case because he is using out of stock, right? So that's like a dangerous situation, if you will, right? So so due to the color, this is what pops out at first at me in the squint test. Let's look at the breakdowns. So high level numbers, that's where we generally start with. So I think this could use a bit of high level numbers just to give context. That would be great. And then of course we have trends. So this is a trend. This is a trend, and this is a trend. We don't have breakdowns, so I think it could use a bit of breakdowns as well. So by anatomy-wise, we could have some of these elements that'll give it a more balanced one. And of course, I'm seeing just one page. It's quite possible that this is one page out of a multiple-page report, and there is a page which gives the context, which gives this kind of high-level numbers, breakdown, trends, and so forth. And then this is a dive-in page. Well, of course, I can't see that, so I'm just gonna kind of talk about what I see here. So that would make it more balanced. So what I'll encourage you to try is, and again, if this is the main page, then try putting some high level numbers, overall counts, and again, if you can give some indication of is that good or bad? So of course you have the slicer, which they can use to select a date range. And in this case, they're seeing about 3 months of data: September, October, November, December. Well, okay, I mean it's like a custom date. So imagine if there was numbers like, oh, in this date range there were these many tickets, right? But then you can compare that with something. Either you can compare it with the last year or the previous period. So this one is kind of I don't know. This one is kind of awkward. Imagine this was 12/31, right? So 12/31, that would make it September, October, November, December. I'm counting it on my fingers. 4 months, and you take the 4 months prior to that, which would be, so this is months 8 through 12. Those would be months. No, this. Oh God. No, this is months 9 through 12. So those 9, 10, 11, 12. So those would be 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So May through August. Okay, God, May through August. My high school self would be ashamed of me. Like, Avi, what are you doing, man? Doing math on your fingers. So yeah, and a surprise. Yeah, it's kind of like I watch my son. He's in high school now, and I see him doing calculus, and I'm like, wow, I knew calculus once. I was actually good at it. I was good at math. All right, I'm getting carried away. So if you come back here. So imagine you show that high level number. You say, yep, in this range. Oh, actually, this is out of stock report. So you will have to think about what is the most important number for you. Like maybe yeah. Actually, this one is tricky. This one is I'm having to dive into the subject matter itself. So if I'm at a warehouse, and I wish Raul was here. Or we had you on the phone, Danie, but students can join on the phone. So let me think about it. So if you're looking at warehouse and we're concerned about out of stock, what would be a summary number for a given time period? Let me think. So of course, one we could say is that what's out of stock at the end of this time period, but which is percentage out of stock. Yeah, but then you will have to show percentage out of stock. So maybe let's say we have 100 items that we carry, right? And then imagine a graph which says out of the 100 items, what percentage is out of stock at any given point of time, right? So you say, oh yeah, on this day it was like 20%, 19%, 5%, 2%, 50%, something like that, right? So imagine a graph like that. And of course, I mean, instead of doing out of 100 products, you can just do that as a percentage. So however number of items we had or we're supposed to have at any given point of time, how many were out of stock, and then you have to still decide the measure. Like, are you gonna take oops, oh gosh, what happened there? Let's try it again. Yeah, are you gonna, so if we have like these different levels, do you take the average? So, oh yeah, the average percentage out of stock was this, or do you take maybe with the worst case scenario? So it's, oh man, the peak was this, and you can decide, right? But again, so maybe there will be maybe some thinking like, what's a good number to represent a time period? I'm sure I don't have to come up with it on the fly. Whew, thank God. So I'll let you think about that. But that will be so powerful, right? So you would say, oh yeah, so let's go with, on average we had 12% items were out of stock at any given point of time on a daily basis, right? On an average on a daily basis. I think would that work, right? So, but then you compare it with something, and now you can compare it either with previous year or previous period. So if you're looking at these 4 months, what about the previous 4 months? So my question to everybody, this is a quiz question, guys, is which would you choose? How would you choose? Why would you choose? Right? So if I choose to compare it with the previous year, why? Why did I choose that? Why should I choose that? And if I choose to compare it to the previous period, why would I make that choice? And of course, it depends on maybe a few factors, but there is one key factor, one really key simple factor. And once I'm going to say it, you're going to say, oh yeah, of course, right? Maybe you know it, maybe you don't, right? So if you're showing it again, I mean, you can simplify this. You can go back to your sales. Where is the sales dashboard? So here I'm comparing year over year. But I could have compared it with the, well, actually, year is a bad example because year over year, last year, imagine I was looking at 3 months, right? So if I'm looking at 3 months, January through March, do I compare that to January through March of the last year? Or do I compare it with October, November, December? And God, I'm doing math on my fingers again. Jen is saying that 3 questions. Oh, okay. Boil it down. Yeah. That is, yeah, those are 3 questions. Yeah. Maybe which one do we compare it with and why? Okay, so at least I reduced it to 2. Okay, so come back here. So yeah, I think those high level numbers are going to be phenomenal. And again, if you can just give a little bit of a comparison so that we know, hey, is that number good or bad? Are we doing better or worse? Which way are we headed? All right, should we pat ourselves on the back, give each other bonuses, or somebody needs to get fired, right? So which one is it? Which one is it, right? So if you don't have the context, what are you going to do? There's nothing without the context. So I think I shared something on my LinkedIn profile, and it was about data versus using data versus storytelling, and I think it's a big part of that is about context, right? Data by itself often lacks context, but if you can weave it into a story, you give it that context, right? And of course, to tell a story, you don't always have to tell a story to tell a story, right? I mean, you don't have to, like, get a microphone and say, hey guys, here's my story once upon a time. No, you can tell a story with just the way you design your visualization. That is storytelling, right? You don't have to be there necessarily. Imagine, that's like a ninja trick. That's like a Jedi mind trick, right? That I can tell you a story without telling you a story, without being there, without ever talking to you. That is power. Ooh. Why? Because that scales your power, right? I mean, if I have to tell a story, man, I have to find everybody, get them on the same call, have them on the same YouTube live, and then tell my story. But here, you can just send it out there. Power, mates. Okay, great. So we talked about kind of the high-level numbers breakdown. That's going to be good. And so yeah, this one is a little tricky because the 2 facts, right, that we're choosing a date range, and then this out of stock is something which doesn't render itself to like an overall metric. So even if we were to show breakdowns, I don't know what breakdowns we would see. So you know what? Let's take a huge step back for this one. I feel like that I think Daniel is on the right path here. And I may have misguided you, Daniel, earlier by talking about this pattern, right? So I feel that if somebody's focused on out of stock and warehousing, oh yeah, great. So exactly, that's what my feeling was. So did I call him Daniel? Sorry about that, Danie. So Danie's saying he does have the whole report, and this is 1 page. I kind of knew that. But if we just take a step back, and Danie, let me know if I'm kind of getting it right. So if I feel like somebody's talking about warehouses, out of stock, I feel it at least needs 2 pages. The first page shows you what is out of stock right now. That's a whole page about. And that page is probably going to be simple. It's going to, and again, if you think about it, like now that it's a point of time, like a snapshot, what is out of stock right now? Everything becomes simple. Every single thing becomes simple. It's like, let's go back to the sales thing here, right? So you're looking at out of stock right now. So of course you can do a high level number. You can just say, oh, here's the number of things out of stock right now. You can compare it with whatever, kind of prior year or whatever prior period, something like that. You can show trends that so these many items. You can show a little bit of trend coming in. You can show the breakdown of the current items. So 5 of them are in bikes, right? And you can show other breakdowns, and you can show detail, right? So everything works. So 1 page says what is out of stock right now, and then other page says, well, and how have we been doing in the past? That simplifies things so much. So I think that's brilliant, and it sounds like Danie is already kind of doing it that way. And now this one is focused on trends. It's like, yeah, cool. We know what is out of stock right now. We know what to do. We know the things that we need to order, action we need to take. But let's look at how things have been trending. And this, yeah, you choose a date range. And again, I think maybe having an overall numbers could help, but they're less important now. I think overall numbers would help because that would let us know that, oh yeah, are we trending good or trending bad? Like we can see the trends here visually, and sometimes sometimes you look at a trend and you're like, oh boy, that is, we can see that's trending up, but if you can put a number on it that, yeah, this is trending up by X%, and last year we were this, that would help. Okay. Vladimir had a question. One report depend on requirements. Oh yeah. So of course, this is so guys. What do you need? What do you need to get really good at Power BI? Right. So if you want to be really good at Power BI, you need real practice. And what do you need for that? Well, you need real data, which actually is not that hard to get. I mean, there's real data everywhere, right? I mean, United Nations population, but the other part is hard. You need a real client. You need somebody you can play that tennis match instead of hitting the ball against the wall, right? I mean, that's a great way to practice, but you're not really learning tennis, right? If that's all you do, right? And so that's what I see a lot of people do. Oh, they look at this, look what cool stuff that I did with this NBA data, and where people take screenshots. And I think that's just pointless. Frankly, I wouldn't waste 1 minute on it. It's because that's not business intelligence. That is something else. Again, that's hitting the ball against the wall. If you want to do business intelligence, you need a real client, because you want to go through that experience of agile BI, of peeling the onion, of showing something and then saying, hey, what's next? And that experience is so fun, first of all. Like, I mean, God, it's like, yeah, it's just unbelievably fun. And I love that. So yeah, if you want to be really good, you got to get real practice, really a real client. So we don't quite have that privilege. I mean, sometimes, yeah, if I had Danie on the phone, as sometimes there are students joining on the phone, and then I can do a little bit of that. I'm just like, yep. But yeah, so I know we're kind of handicapped here a little bit. So that's a great point. It does come with requirement, but I'll also mention just briefly that be a little bit careful with the requirements. So I'll give you, so guys, we're diving a little bit deeper here, slightly off topic, but hopefully I think it's going to still help you. So there are two things when I'm working with a client. For one, initially I ignore 90-95% of what they say. I actually don't quite ignore it, but I write down what may be relevant for later. But I don't pay attention to it because they're asking a lot about, oh, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. But I don't care about any of that at that point. I only care about the model. Now, this is the heart of Power BI. This is the engine that drives every single thing. Now, of course, they're not the Power BI experts. I am, right? And yeah, hey, trust your expertise, trust your experience. So all I'm listening for requirements initially is that, ooh, what is my data table? What are my lookup tables? What's the area of focus? What's my scope, right? They might ask for a lot, and I'll say, well, which area do you want me to focus first on, sales or support tickets, right? Or if they have like 10 other things, or what is the first one? And I always go in this agile manner. And of course they say, oh, you want everything. And I'm like, well, which one would you like first? Which one would be most valuable? What's the most pressing problem? Something, right? So I scope down and I figure out the model. Once I figured out the model, then maybe I'll go back through the notes of what they asked for. But again, here's a distinction, right? So again, they're not, right? I mean, sometimes you need to guide your client. So they may ask for a lot of stuff. So what I do, but they don't know like the visualization best practices. They don't know half of the stuff we talked about on this call, right? So if you knew nothing about visualization design best practices before this call, man, by now think about the stuff that you know. And again, they're in the same spot. They just don't know. So it's your job to guide them. And one thing that I do sometimes, actually quite often, is that I ignore kind of, if they said, oh yeah, we need a pie chart, or we need this, or recreate this Excel report, and I ignore all of that. And I always just go with the power pattern. And I say, hey, this is just a prototype. This, I just pulled the data in, and I just wanted to throw something on the page. It's not the final thing. Actually, it kind of is. I want it to be the final thing. I don't say that. So I say, I just threw it on the page, and yeah, I just want you to kind of validate how things look, right? So I kind of tricked them into it. I tricked them into best practices. Is that ethical? I don't know. But man, Yeah, sometimes you gotta, find your way around things, right? So if I can't, I know that if I start explaining that, hey, this is based on visualization best practices, and what you're telling me is actually not blah, whatever, right? It's gonna be, I can't imagine that's gonna be hard. Maybe it's worth it. Sometimes I do dive into those conversations, right? So I do this, and then they love it, right? So they don't know what they want, right? So I can guide them here, and I say, so what do you think about this layout? I mean, does this work for you? And they'll say, yeah, actually, this is amazing. Yeah, I can see the high level numbers. I can break down. I can click on this. I can click on that. I can see trends. This is awesome. And then, of course, we peel the onion. I'll say, well, what would you want next? What is missing? What needs to change? And of course, sometimes something needs to change on this page itself. Often that's the case, right? They'll say, yeah, this is not spawn. We actually don't look at it this way. We look at it this way, da 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 da. So I'll write down all of these changes. And then, of course, for some things, it might be like they're asking for a different report page. They'll say, yeah, this is great, but we also need to see the out of stock items or blah, 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 something. And then I'll say, okay, cool, that's another report page. And then sometimes what they're asking for is, oh yeah, this is great, but we also need the service ticket data. And then I'm like, oh, that's a data modeling work. So you see how I'm kind of categorizing it, right? So I'm in my mind, I'm saying, oh, do I need to make like a small tweak on this page? That's simple, right? Or do I need to add a report page, and we're doing like a whole different scenario and then I have to think about like, hey, who's this for? What problem is it trying to solve? Or am I making a change in the model? And relatively speaking, the first two are easy, right? Again, that's like walking in a grocery store with your card and saying, oh, I want eggs, I want this, I want that. It's really easy, right? But if I'm a model change, that's a little bit next step. And then I have to think about like, what do I need in the model? Do I need a new measure, which is relatively easy? But do I need to go back all the way to the source and pull in a new column, which is a little bit more work? Or do I need to pull in a new data table altogether? Well, that's a little more work than that, right? Because I pull in a new data table, and then I'll say, okay, cool, now this data table is there, and then I'll see, hey, which existing lookup table it hooks up to, and then do I need any new lookup tables, right? So okay, so hopefully, man, that helped. We dove in a little bit deeper than I intended to, but they gave you the context of obviously visualization is just one aspect. There's all of this going on when you're working with a client. All right, great. Robert, mate, you're still hanging on. That's awesome. Who should we cover? Should we cover Flavio? So usually students, if they submit, I do try to cover the dashboard, unless somebody is here, and we didn't cover him.
So yes, so I can't find Flavio and Akash, and from the students, nobody who was on the Zoom call said they had submitted.
Okay, cool. So let's still cover Flavio,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean he can catch it in the recording. Okay, so this is, oh wow, it's a live report. That is exciting. All right, guys, so I'm opening that up. Okay, cool. Let's go. You know what? Where is this guy? Maybe we'll move this to the bottom. Oops. Actually, I don't know. So this one is a Premier League fantasy dashboard, and he has used some SVG elements. Okay, so I would say I feel like I need to pull my son in for this one. He's a huge soccer fan. I feel underqualified for this, but I'll try my best. So first of all, again, kudos to Flavio for building this, sending this in. This is amazing. And what we'll also say is that obviously this is not like a typical dashboard, right? So usually, my dashboard, I love business. I love business. I love working with business users, business teams, and yeah, it's just Yeah, so but this is not it, right? So a lot of the stuff that I say may not apply. So I think I would say, instead of kind of getting into the stuff that I usually get into, let's just celebrate this one, and I'm just gonna kind of explore in this awesomeness. And let's see, can I maybe I can even share it with you guys. Oh, and maybe others can play with it too. Okay, so Premier League Fantasy 2021 Game Week 7. Okay, so I get it. Player overview, player stats, and league overview. Mm. So I was gonna say let's celebrate it, but I can't help but it's the feedback. I felt like, so I usually like I love kind of seeing high level stuff and then diving deep. So I feel like maybe the league overview should be first. So help me understand the league, and then let me dive into player. So yeah, so I know I'm familiar with some of these names just by watching games with my son or over his shoulder. He tends to watch on his laptop. I'm not quite sure why. Okay, so this is Flavio's dashboard. I'm gonna put a link in here. Yeah, so explore, guys. See what you find interesting. So league overview, points per based on the amount of money spent. Wow, that is insane. That's like a good number. Mm, yeah. Well, I think that's a great way to look at kind of the ROI, return on investment. And now my mind is really racing. So, of course, I said that, oh, I do business dashboard. This is not business, but this is business in a way. And yeah, and I'm thinking, so guys, we talked about peeling the onion. And this is how it usually goes. So usually we start off with a client at this high level stuff like sales. And usually this blows them away because they have never seen their data like this. They have never ever seen it. All in one page, all for multiple years. If they have 10, 15 years of data, all of it available. They can slice and dice it, choose the year they want to look at, and they can cross filter, highlight, right? It's just, they're blown away. But again, we go through that peeling the onion process with the real client, and we keep going deeper and deeper, and we often get into more meaningful metrics, right? So again, I mean, here it's like, well, points per dollar spent, pounds spent in this case, I guess. But think about, instead of going like, oh, these are overall sales, what if you could get for every dollar you start comparing sales versus cost and which one is more profitable or something like that, right? I mean, we always tend to get deeper, and that also makes it more actionable till you get to something which is really actionable. So imagine we started off here, but then we could say that this is overall, and maybe one team could come in, Chelsea could come in and say, hey, this is everybody, show us Chelsea players, mark them. Maybe that's more insightful. But then what if a dashboard went to the next level and said that, oh, hey, you should trade, or you're paying you're not as efficient as other teams, you're paying a lot more money for less points, and it's, yeah, something is not working, right? So again, that's more insightful. But of course, we can take it to the next level and the next level and say, and maybe they can even point out that, hey, you need to trade out this player, he's not working for you. And or say, hey, you need to look at this player, you need to bring them into their team. Now, of course, oh man, what is that baseball movie where a team starts using statistics to turn their their season around? Oh God, Moneyball, right? Moneyball. So yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Moneyball. That's like insane. That's crazy, right? So yeah, so I think this one is like right balanced on that edge where it's like, boy, dug in deeper. It's not like, oh, here are the points, here's the number of points they scored, or here's how much money they've spent. No, it's saying points per money spent. So yeah, that is really good stuff. So of course, man, that is God, Flavio, I'm loving it, mate. Loving it. Actually, let me see. Let me see. I want to make sure that this is not kind of hidden. Oh, got it, got it, got it. Okay, all right. Wow, I'm really enjoying this one. So let's see. I want to think out loud. Hopefully, that's not annoying. So what is this graph is telling me? So it's telling me, okay. So I read the axis. Cause by the way, guys, yeah. So sometimes some of you may have heard my story. Initially, when Power BI came out, or really Power View. Who remembers Power View? And the thing that they would demo all the time were these moving bubble charts. And I was so impressed by that that I tried to do that in our executive presentation. All of these senior leaders were there. And it was a disaster because I had 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes were spent in explaining what it is and how it works, like what's the axis, what's the size of the stuff, and all so forth. So yeah, so I feel like bubble chart. Yeah, I mean they can be powerful, but yeah, you got to be careful. You better have the time and the ability to explain it, right? So I'm just gonna kind of slow myself down and try to absorb it. So on this axis is the cost. Got it. So Mohamed Salah is somebody paid way more than Patrick Bamford, and this one is total points. So these players are a lot more valuable. So Patrick Bamford and Romain Saiss, the team spent about the same money, but Patrick Bamford is more valuable. So of course, and sometimes I've seen this done where people divide it in quadrant, where they do a background image which has a quadrant, and then of course you can focus on the top quadrant. And again, you got to decide whether that's a good approach for you or not. But here we can definitely see that for one, what I'm seeing is there's not like a there's not like a correlation, right? So imagine if we found these dots on a line. What that would mean is that there's a correlation between cost and total points, and maybe there's some. I wouldn't deny it, but it's definitely questionable. Definitely questionable. And of course, guys, there's another level of data analysis, by the way, and I sometimes I need help from others to remind me of that because I make the same mistake, which is correlation is not causation. Who knows what I'm talking about, right? All right, so cool. I wouldn't dive deeper into that, but yeah, that's a good lesson I have to always be reminded of. Correlation is not causation. So yeah, that's interesting, and yeah, we can kind of see the cluster here. But who are the ones that stand out? So of course, Mohamed Salah, man, somebody paid a lot of money for Salah, and well, he's good, but he's not great, I guess. Harry Kane is great. Harry Kane, Son Heung, they're in a league of their own, and yeah, they were a little more affordable. But clearly, Wilfried and Zaha, these guys are great investments. So of course, you can do other stuff here. And again, in a storytelling, you can have bookmarks and all that stuff, and you can tell this whole story. And instead of coloring on a gradient, which actually I'm not sure what that is, and maybe I don't have enough soccer knowledge or something else. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, so I'll ignore that for now. But you imagine telling a story where you can call it out, where you can say that, hey, Mohamed Salah, man, somebody paid a lot of money for not so great results. And of course, maybe you put Sadio Mane in that category. Maybe you don't. And you call these guys out, say, yep, these are outstanding. And you kind of like, oh, these guys are great investments, right? So diamonds in the rough, right? Diamonds for cheap. So that was fun. Man, this is really good stuff. And of course, oh boy, so we've been talking about kind of the high level numbers, like, hey, just give them the highlights. And I love that he's kind of calling it out. It's like, yep, these are the top three values, right? So, and of course, I kind of, kind of Patrick Bamford, yep, and what's the third one? Roman Saiss. Oh yeah, yeah, that wouldn't have caught my eye. So it's really good that he's calling it out. That's amazing. And of course, you can kind of check by points. So I'm going to click over to all stats. Oh God, this is a joy. And this is by player, and of course you can sort by points and that sort of stuff. Yep. So I've seen this approach a fair bit, where people toggle between a graph and details. Sometimes people do that because what is the Achilles heel for any BI system? So before Power BI, and no matter how many millions of dollars my company spent, no matter what fancy system they got, pretty much the only thing that I used in there was the export to Excel button. And sometimes BI companies try to kind of hide it, and they call it export to CSV. Well, we know where CSV files go, so it's all export to Excel, right? And that becomes the real BI tool of the business analyst. And in Power BI, I try to avoid that. In fact, I see that as a red flag. I see that as a huge red flag when I show them something awesome in Power BI, which we've been working on, and they say, "Oh, Avi, this is all great. How can I export it in Excel?" I always push them a little bit, and I say, well, why would you want to export in Excel? What would you do once you export in Excel? And sometimes they give me a straight answer, sometimes they don't. But, maybe sometimes I have to dig a little bit. But yeah, what I want to try to find out is, so often if I get the answer, they'll say something like, "Oh, I export in Excel, and then I do this and this." And then I say, well, why do you do this and this? What do you get out of it? I'll say, "Oh, because I'm looking for this. I'm looking for the customer." They're really looking for an action. That's what business users are about, right? I mean, they have to finally take a business decision or an action. So it leads to that, and I want to, well, sometimes it takes some Q&A round, a bit of an interrogation to get them there. It's funny, I don't know. So they'll say, "Oh, because this," so that I can figure out the customer that I need to call. Pick up my phone and call, a very actionable thing. So of course, what I try to do is then to build that in my reporting system itself. And often I can make it much easier for them. And I can say, "Oh, really? You want to just figure out the top 5 customers with the biggest drop in sales from year over year and be able to call them? I'll give that to you in a table, and I'll put their phone number right next to it, and you can click that phone number to call them. Can't get any easier, right?" So you can kind of get them to the next level. So, but sometimes they do say, "Hey, Avi, I just need to export it in Excel." So I've also used this technique for that. Like, you would give them a visual dashboard, but then they say, "Avi, I do need to export in Excel." And then you give them this toggle, which spits out this one is pretty, but sometimes like an ugly table, like a long table with rows and rows. And its sole purpose is for them to be able to export to Excel. So if you need to do that. But of course, that's not how Flavio is using it. So he's using it quite elegantly. I mean, this is a beautiful table with a lot of functionality in here. Yeah, this is great stuff. Great stuff. Boy, so I think that's probably, I wouldn't go any deeper. And of course, you guys have the link. Share what you kind of liked. Go explore. Let's see, Flavio, I hope you would be okay with that. Yeah, connect with Flavio on LinkedIn, maybe. All right. I guess we're gonna call it a day for today. Again, folks, shout out to our Power BI consultant program. You can just go to our site, learnpowerbi.com. And our homepage has been taken over by this, because that's what we're focused on right now. We do have the Power BI Pioneer program coming up in March for company leaders, but right now, for anybody who is considering this path, and again, I brought up this page earlier. So the webinar is free, the whole experience is free. We're doing a whole event community, we're doing mini events, and we're gonna have you make progress on this. So this is who it's for. It's for somebody who, has a tug on their heart, right? I mean, some part of you is called to this. Like, I wonder what that would like. Or maybe you've even dipped your toe into it. Maybe you've gotten your first client or a few clients, right? Right. So, but you're still wondering, like, hey, is this the right path? Should I go in this? What if I'm not successful? What if I fail? Will I succeed? What do I need to succeed? Right? That sort of stuff. So if you have those questions and you're like, well, what steps should I focus on? What steps do I need to take? And even where to start. Like, what do I do now? What do I do first? What's the most important thing to start with? If you're in that spot, then join us for this experience, right? So again, there's going to be a webinar on this day, which is going to be awesome. 5 steps to become a 6-figure Power BI consultant. But we're doing a lot of stuff even leading up to the event. That's why you want to sign up now. In fact, starting Monday, we'll start our mini hangouts. We're going to have mini hangouts, micro actions, and frankly, guys, what I did was, so we launched this program last year. 1 year ago, January 2020. And I was so excited about 2020. And I love the name of the year, 2020, because to me it reminded me of like the 2020 vision, 2020 clear vision. And I'm like, man, let's get clear about our future. Where do we want to go? What life do we want to create? And again, right, I mean, I want people to create a life by design. So I was so excited. And now, of course, the year didn't turn out as any of us expected. Nobody could have seen what came. But man, when you hear, and we're going to share some of the results, man, when you hear some of the results that our members have gotten in a pandemic year, it blows me away. And really, that's the reason I'm doing this. It's not me. This program is not really Avi, kind of holding your hand and kind of teaching you everything you need to know. Well, that element is there. I am going to be there. I'm going to be supporting you. I'm going to be, teaching everything that I know. But it's about the group. And the group is so phenomenally amazing. They have done amazing things, again, in such a challenging year. So, man, I'm stoked about 2021. I'm like, what is possible now? And, of course, some of you who've seen my recent video, I talk about, man, that the 3 trends that are going to impact this year. And I'm excited, right? So, and again, I mean, students even had great success this year. So yeah, join us for that. So just go to our site, learnpowerbi.com, sign up for the event, and I'll see you in that group. All right, Robert, big thanks to Robert again, and thanks to everybody who participated. And